On August 15, 1947, India became free, but on January 26, 1950, India made a far more difficult promise. Because freedom removed foreign rule, but becoming a republic meant trusting every Indian equally. As India enters its 77th year as a republic, this choice remains one of the boldest democratic decisions ever made anywhere in the world. Independence gave India sovereignty, but republic gave India structure, direction, and restraint. Because between 1947 and 1950, the challenge was not just ending the colonial rule, but preventing chaos, fragmentation, and authoritarianism. And instead of choosing speed or force, India chose a constitutional democracy as its foundation. When Constitution came into force on January 26, 1950, India was poor, deeply divided, traumatized by the partition, and largely illiterate. Yet it introduced the universal adult franchise from day one, granting voting rights to every adult citizen without discrimination on caste, religion, gender, education, or wealth. And this was not symbolic democracy. It was immediate political equality at a scale never attempted before. Many global observers believe that this experiment will collapse. What held India together was not emotion or hero worship, but design, one of the most detailed constitutions ever written, created to manage the diversity, disagreement, and power rather than eliminate them. And this design was not accidental. India's constitution makers studied and incorporated ideas from constitutions across the world, borrowing principles like parliamentary democracy, rule of law, federalism, fundamental rights, and checks and balances, and then adapting them carefully to the Indian realities to cover as many future scenarios as possible with precision. Independent courts, a powerful election commission, linguistic federalism, and clear limits on authority were built deliberately. And over 76 completed years, this constitution has functioned not as a rigid rulebook, but as a living system that absorbs pressure, corrects itself, and endures instead of collapsing. India's democratic achievement is not just the right to vote. It is the ability to conduct free and fair elections repeatedly across deserts, forests, islands, mountains, dense cities, and even remote villages for nearly 1 billion voters, ensuring the secret ballots, peaceful transfer of power, and political competition. Even when governments change, the system holds and results are largely accepted. And in a world where democratic trust is declining, this consistency is exceptional. India is deeply traditional and rapidly modern at the same time, culturally ancient yet institutionally young, politically noisy yet systematically stable. It debates loudly, protests fiercely, challenges authority, and still returns to the constitutional processes for resolution. This is why the world does not see India as a perfect democracy, but as a functioning one sustained through the constant negotiations rather than forced consensus. Over its Republican journey, India has built scientific and technological capacity within the democratic framework, from public research institutions to world-class engineering talent, and from digital public infrastructure to space exploration. India's space missions have earned global respect not for spectacle, but for the precision, efficiency, and cost-effectiveness, placing satellites, exploring Moon and Mars, and contributing to the global space science, proving that ambition and accountability can coexist in a democracy. The quiet scientific credibility is part of how the world increasingly views India. India's economic story is not just about growth figures, it's about coordination across a vast and varied geography, building highways, rail networks, ports, airports, energy grids, and digital connectivity while remaining electorally accountable. India's digital payment systems have transformed everyday life, enabling instant, low-cost transactions at a massive scale, bringing formal finance to millions, and showing how public digital infrastructure can work in an open, democratic society. Managing development in a country of continental size without suspending democratic process is a challenge a very few nations have successfully navigated. Culturally, India has sustained plurality without forcing sameness, from languages and traditions of North to the classical and Dravidian cultures of the South, from artistic and trading histories of the West to the indigenous and tribal identities of the East and Northeast. Disagreements are real and sometimes intense, but Republic allows the expression without erasure. And this ability to hold difference within a shared constitutional identity remains one of India's most underappreciated achievements. India's strength also lies in state building, the integration of hundreds of princely states, indigenous regions, and smaller kingdoms into a single constitutional republic, achieved not through the prolonged civil war but through the negotiation, law, and institutions. Alongside this, India maintains one of the world's most capable armed forces under firm civilian control, defending vast land, sea, and air borders, operating in extreme terrains, surrounded by complex and often hostile neighbors, while remaining accountable to the democratic leadership. Today, India has a voice in nearly every major global conversation: geopolitics, climate change, technology, trade, development, and security. Not because it claims moral perfection, but because its republican continuity gives it credibility. India speaks as a nation that has tested democracy under the pressure and sustained it for 7 decades, and that endurance gives weight to its voice in the fractured world. As India enters its 77th year as a republic, its greatest legacy is not flawless governance, but constitutional persistence, a system that has survived poverty, population pressure, political change, technological disruption, and generational shifts without abandoning the core promise of political equality and representative government. Republic Day is not just a celebration of the past. It's a responsibility carried into the future because the Indian Republic was never designed to be worshipped. It was designed to be understood, questioned, and sustained. And after 76 completed years, that commitment is what the world truly sees when looks at India. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who cares about India's journey. Like the video and subscribe for more stories that look beyond the headlines.